Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Let's Stay Gamers, and welcome. So recently I was asked a question by a subscriber that really got me thinking. He asked the question, could you build anything with a gravity generator that acted like a force field, maybe to protect a hangar or a bay of a ship? And I thought, well, rather than giving him a long-winded answer in sort of writing, I thought I'd build a number of designs and show him what sort of concepts I could come up with. Now, first of all, for the majority of the designs, I've used stones simply because they're a cheap sort of resource that we can grab, we can feed into these machines, and it makes them a lot more affordable than ramming something like steel plates or other options like the metal grids or the medical components that you're going to see me using later. Now, the only problem with these rocks is that bullets tend to go through them, but saying that, bullets go through a lot of the components that I'm going to be using today, and rockets tend to get deflected, but that's what we're aiming for, deflecting the rockets rather than the machine gun fire. So first off, let's hop in our cockpit, and I'm just going to show you what this can do. So we've got the machine guns here, and I'm just going to show you how it can go simply straight through it. There you go, straight through it, no problem. But with the rockets on the other hand, the rockets are simply deflected away, and you can see the rocks actually survived and it's floating off behind us. That's why I like using the rocks rather than the other components, because they'd be destroyed after taking one single rocket strike. So let's aim at another rock, and you can see a second shot has been deflected. Now you're probably wondering, Aaron, there's loads of gaps in that sort of system, so you could just simply aim lower than these lines and it would go straight through. Now, that's pretty much true, so that's why these late developments are going to make a big sort of difference. So let's get a little bit more technical. Now, instead of using rocks, we're using gridded plates here, and the idea is to get a little bit more surface area squared. At the same time, we're going to have a very nice, interesting effect with these grids. Now, if I hop in my ship and I aim with the machine gun at one of these plates, what you'll tend to notice is that they get destroyed pretty much instantly when a bullet actually hits it. Now, the same cannot be said for the rockets, because if I aim at it with a rocket, it will simply deflect the rocket away and it will remain quite safe. As you can see there, it's eliminated quite a patch of the grids themselves, but the actual hangar behind is rather safe, and that's what I like to see. So let's go with a second shot. And that time it actually got deflected out of the grids, and that's why I don't like using the grids over the rocks, because the grids can angle themselves when the rocket actually hits them, and it tends to get deflected up at strange angles like this. You can see the missiles deflected up and hit that gap up there. Now, it's quite interesting to see that sort of effect though. So let's move on to the next solution, and what I've done is I've hit F11 so you can actually see the gravity fields and the different items themselves. So we've got this thin gravity shield. Now what we're doing is we're bouncing the plates between them. You can see how they're weaving back and forth so they can actually absorb some of the missile's actual damage when it impacts, and it's quite an interesting little concept to have a play around with. And the steel plates don't work, in my opinion, as well as the rocks, just due to they're quite expensive. And let's hit F11, turn that off, and we'll hit it with a few rockets. So there's a plate coming up, and what you should be able to see is just how many plates it takes out with one rocket. It's just such a wasteful sort of way of doing it, where you'd hit a rock with a rocket and it would simply just be destroyed and all the other rocks around it would be fine. So let's hit another one, and as you can see it's fine. But sometimes with these plates you get strange sort of deflection values if you aim at them at weird angles, but it doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. So let's turn this machine off and we'll move on to the next design. Now, you may have noticed that the problem with the previous designs was that the lines would actually go across one way and you'd have these really significant gaps between the lines themselves. Now, I've tried to address that by having boxes going up and downwards and using the medical components, because they're a really large component and they can take a lot of hits. So as you can see, it's lowered down here and it's creating this really interesting sort of netting based effect. And I'll show you what happens when you run through it with a ship. Not too much, but at the same time, the idea of it is to just prevent missiles rather than rogue enemy ships coming through. Even though I do have a solution for ships trying to break through this sort of net themselves, and it's quite a nasty surprise anyway. I'll show you coming up. Now, if we hop back in our cockpit and we grab ourselves a rocket and we just pick a target, we can actually loop a few of these missiles through here. We can actually aim through the gaps, and it's pretty easy to do so. But now this is where it gets hard. As we pull back from the actual lines, they disappear completely. So now it's hit or miss, and as you can see, my missiles just randomly exploded on that door, and as another pilot, I don't know what the hell's happened. And it's just really interesting to have something like this. Now, as a pilot up close, I could aim through the gaps, get it through the cracks. So you can see here, I can put one through there. I'd probably put a little missile through there as well. But as I pull back away, all the components disappear, and now it's just a strike of luck. And it's much harder to actually aim through them cracks. Really nice, sort of interesting design to go with. But I thought I'd take it to the next level. So let's hover down and we'll turn off this system. So we turn that one off and we'll move on to the next one. So this was the idea of maybe a small sort of base as we've got stored away in here. And the idea is you'd hit this button and a vortex would come out, creating an interesting sort of force field within a matter of seconds or minutes. So we hit this button, you can instantly hear this rumbling sound, and these medical components come flying out like this, and then they start to form a shield around the doorway to actually protect the ship itself, or even the station in this case. So I've got that doorway, and I'm going to go behind me and grab my ship while that's quickly building up, and we're going to fire a few different rounds at it. So you've got this really interesting vortex to start with until it actually starts to get some shape, and we'll go an F11 on this so you can actually see the shape itself. Now the idea is a dome within a dome with an actual small perimeter wall, so you've got this little triangle here in the middle that keeps it on a flat parallel surface, so the boxes actually build up and stack next to each other really well. As you can see within here, they're actually stacking and forming quite a solid object. I can't even push through here with my character. As you can see here, I can pick up these boxes, but I can't push through. And let's return to our ship, turn F11 off, and we'll fire some machine gun fire at it. Now this is much better against a sort of machine gun fire, and if I let this continue to build up, it'll fill the whole area around this hangar. And as you can see, I can cut my way through slowly, but as soon as I cut my way through, another piece replaces it. Now this is also quite nice against missiles, like anywhere I aim around here, and especially if I'm far away. So as you can see, the components are going to disappear here, and I would simply think, right, I'm going to fire a missile straight into that station, and the guy has no clue, but the guy behind that door is actually secretly safe, because as soon as I release this missile, it's going to hit his shield right in front of the doorway. As you can see, it's hit the shield, caused no damage to the actual station itself. Just another sort of solution for a gravity shield. And what's really even more exciting about it is that you can't see it from that distance away. So let's hop up here, and we'll go and have a look at this final design. Now this is by far the most dangerous, and this is the one I don't recommend doing this one at all. So we're going to activate this, and what's going to happen here is little remote explosives are going to be popped out. And the problem is, if anything hits these, it's going to cause an absolutely massive explosion. It will destroy the game. And I'll show you in a clip in a minute what happened when someone rammed into it on a little server. But just imagine hiding something like this in an asteroid, hiding these rock and the collectors on both sides. And from a little bit of distance away, maybe the guy's trying to do some stunt jumps, he's trying to fly through it, and the components have just completely disappeared. And then next minute he rams into a wall of this, and his whole ship or his whole crew just goes up in a massive fireball. So I thought I'd just show you some of the interesting concepts that I've been messing around with today, and hopefully it's answered your question, and it's shown some of you other guys some interesting ideas and how you can play around with gravity. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.